Blessed be all my people out there. In this video, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. And we're going to be doing the astrology of the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. Now, normally I stay away from topics like this. I don't like to talk about politics on my channel. I don't like to talk about celebrities on my channel. I don't like to go to those spaces because I honestly do not like the kinds of attention, energy, or people it attracts when it goes into these extreme spaces. I have tried really, really hard to make sure that my channel is as unwelcoming a place for extremities as possible. That being said, I did predict something like this would happen in a video I put out earlier this last week, going greater into depth about Uranus conjunct Mars. And a lot of people have been commenting about how I called this, and so I did want to talk about that, not from an ego perspective, but to also go into another activity I've been getting called to do, which is basically share the nuts and bolts of my process. So I've been reading a lot more lives on Patreon and recording them, and I'll be putting up a few of those readings so you can see what it's like to get an astrology reading from me or a tarot reading from me. And I figured this now, because this is kind of a buzz and people are asking me if I have any more to say than what I said in that other video, because I didn't say much, well, what do I have to say about this? So what I figured I would do is I would take you through this. Now, I have not investigated into this situation because a good reader is not going to let a client or a subject tell them their life story or pull them into the story that they're going to do a reading on. I've actually had to stop clients who've tried to pull me into their world to be, a coach and a mentor, because that's not what a good reader does, right? I'm not new age, I'm old school. So what we're gonna do here is basically load up Donald Trump's chart as well as the chart for the event in question. It did come to my attention that the identity of the shooter was released, a 20-year-old in, and all of that kind of stuff. I've not looked up any more about that particular person because I don't think it's a good idea. And I know everyone has their own beliefs about what's going on and who did it and who done it, and is this a false flag, and is this a this, and conspiracy that. Remember, we have to do this in a way that is neutral, unbiased, and not confirmation digging. If you're going into astrology or going into tarot confirmation digging, you're doing it wrong. So I really have no stakes in anything that's going on right now. And I'm not going to talk anymore about that. We're just going to go in and look and see what could be going on with a situation like this. I'm going to be loading up Donald Trump's chart. We're going to be loading what's called a bi-wheel. And so a bi-wheel in astrology is basically where you have kind of a multi-layered lay of the land. You've got the chart of the individual that you're going to be reading, in this case, Donald Trump, just putting in his information here. 14th of June, 1946, 10:54 a.m. in New York. And we're also going to be looking at the event in question. So this would have been the rally, the assassination attempt, 13th of July, 2024, 6:11 p.m. in Butler, Pennsylvania. So here we go. We got our chart all loaded up here. So on the left, we've got, of course, the birth chart for Donald Trump. And on the right, we've got the event, the rally, and the assassination attempt. Date, time, and locations each. So just to kind of give you an overview, because this looks like a huge mess, we're not going to be looking at everything because not everything is relevant. But what we are going to do is we're going to pay special close attention to what's going on with the outer ring of the chart. The outer ring is going to tell us about the chart of the day. So the chart, the day of the event. And then we're also going to look at the inner ring, which is Donald Trump's birth chart. So as you see here, Sun in Gemini, Moon in Sagittarius, Rising Leo. And so I get lots of questions when I'm doing readings for clients about what was going on when such and such thing happened in my life. What was going on when I got fired? What was going on when I got promoted? What was going on when my kid decided to move out? What was going on when I got married? So looking at events in astrology is actually very common, especially when we're looking in retrospect. So this is how you do that if you ever wanted to learn, or for those of you just curious about analyzing the situation in this event, this is how we go about doing it. So we start with a blank, right? We don't get a whole bunch of information ahead of time. We don't project anything in. We just go in, you know, kind of like we're just putting a situation under a microscope and coming at it all neutral. So the first thing I'm going to look for is the Uranus-Mars conjunction, because that was the talk of the town the week prior. I had put my video up about it before, and here they are, 25 and 26 degrees together, right at the top of the chart, and right at the very beginnings of Donald Trump's 10th house of career, status, and authority, as well as the mark he makes on the world. And they are also loosely, but still very relevantly conjunct his midheaven. And for those of you curious, no, I do not do whole sign. So let's break this down, though, because this is already a lot to talk about. We've got Mars, the planet of action, passion, energy, intensity, conflict, war. It's the driving force. And then we've got Uranus, which is the planet of randomness, spontaneity, upheaval, as well as even rebellion, wildness. But this can also be a planet of epiphany. Now, how does this show up, right? Because this is something that came out of nowhere, so an assassination attempt makes sense. And because it's happening as his 10th house, it's happening on the job. He was at a rally, he was on a job, he's on a campaign trail. So now that we've got that all isolated, figured that out, an astrologer is going to look and see what's going on with what Mars is ruling and what Uranus is ruling in the subject's chart. So Mars rules Donald Trump's 9th house of expansion, big worldly affairs. This can rule things like government, legal, and political proceedings. This also rules long-distance connections, foreign connections, big contracts, and this can, to a certain degree, also affect large communities, and again, legal matters and contract matters. There are two parts of the chart that talk about that, but this one's pretty big. The bigger network, it's the higher octave of the 3rd house. And then we also have Uranus, which is ruling his 6th house and his 7th house. So the 6th house of work, his reputation, how he organizes his world, his health and his lifestyle. And this can also indicate, to a certain degree, the teams that he's on, the people that he serves with and works with. And then we also have the 7th house, which is all about his closest or most involved connections, present or past. So in a person's chart, this can rule things like close friendships, alliances, business partnerships, romantic partnerships, spouses, any kind of close, super involved connection. And so having those two come together in one space is kind of interesting. It's kind of telling a story, right? There was definitely an attempt made on his life, so the health matters of the 6th house make a lot of sense. That stacks up. And once again, it's another work area and lifestyle area. This did happen to him on the job. But what's also interesting about this is this can also indicate the people that he's working with or the people that he's serving. And we also have the 7th house, about close connections. Now, while I said in the beginning, I don't front load information and I don't let my clients pull me into their life story, I can't forget that I was actually already shown that the identity of the shooter was revealed. Now, it's hard for me to believe that Donald Trump had a close one-on-one connection with a 20-year-old, but there is a part of me that wonders, maybe, is it possible that this 20-year-old is connected to a group or a community or a family or a space that was once on maybe close terms with Donald Trump in whatever fashion? That might make a little bit more sense to me here. And that leads me to something else that I literally just saw 2 seconds ago that I want to talk about. And that is the fact that we have this Venus in his 12th house opposite his Pluto. Not his Pluto, sorry. Venus in his 12th house transiting Venus, opposite transiting Pluto, which is in his on the cusp of his 5th and 6th house. So this, to me, whenever we have Venus opposite Pluto, we see betrayal. We see a betrayal of loyalties. We see a complete about face, a 180. This tends to come up in situations where people are either backstabbing each other, they're out to get each other. I've seen this show up where people are, committing vicious acts of sabotage to their own, however it shows up. So Venus opposite Pluto does kind of, again, add an extra context to this. And because Venus at the time was transiting his 12th house, the area that rules private matters, hidden matters, as well as old business and the past, I'm kind of wondering if perhaps this shooter or this situation, again, once upon a time, the shooter or something connected to the shooter was once on good terms with Trump, but no longer, hence the betrayal. Or they feel that Trump betrayed them, or whatever soured the connection or the association happened, precipitated or fueled a lot of this assassination attempt. And lastly, which I probably should have led with now that I'm looking at it, we had Mars and Uranus square his Mars in Leo. This is a really tough transit for anybody to go through. This is where we see a situation where a conflict of interest or a conflict of associations, a conflict of priorities rises up to, again, kind of make itself known in sometimes a very explosive way. Sometimes I've seen this happen in situations where it's like you can't move forward because this other thing has too many loose ends. But again, also because his Mars is in his 12th house, I feel like this might be something from the past, or again, a traitor from within his own ranks, or perhaps somebody who felt he betrayed them, or an agreement, an arrangement, or an affiliation, however loose, or however by extension, has gone sour or turned inverted. But that is what this looks like here at a glance. And I understand that a lot of people would probably want me to go further and further and further and further into this. But the truth of the matter is that when it comes to looking at astrology and looking at how these things play out, we can't really go much further with this in a single one-sided talk or one-sided video. At that point, that would be just me trying to rant and rave and make a bunch of, churchy prophecies, which I don't want to. And I feel that because, we have already done our job of looking at the situation, the nature of the situation, what might be motivating it, what might come out next in a very neutral way. I think I'm going to leave it at that, and we will see what unfolds and what syncs up with this as we go through this next few weeks. But this is how an astrologer will, in a very neutral, but also in a very thorough way, break down a given situation, whatever situation they're looking at, without making too many speculations from a biased place about what could be going on. So that is what I've got for you all. And I hope you found this helpful. And if you did, don't forget my name is Nico, Son of Selene. And should you ever want to get a session with me, you can go on ahead to my website, integrativemysticism.com. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this video. If you enjoyed it, I'd appreciate it. Take care, and I will see you all again soon.